Berks County Commissioner Christian Weinbach, and I want to welcome you to our special memorial service. And the purpose of this event is to honor an event that took place 248 years ago. It was July the 8th, 1776, and somewhere down around 5th and Penn, the old Berks County Courthouse stood. And at the top of the courthouse, there was a bell, that bell. And that bell was rung, calling people together for the first reading of the Declaration of Independence here in Reading and Berks County. We are here today to celebrate that event on the 248th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence and of that event. Thank you for joining us. To open us with an invocation, I've asked Rabbi Joseph Litzker, Chabad Center, Berks County, to come and lead us in an invocation.
Be careful, he said this is like a boat, it floats. I always wanted a boat. He said this boat don't float. Okay, so I'm going to just tell a little story, because I remember the last time I was on vacation, I don't remember it, but the story you remember. Many, many years ago, might have been 250 years ago, in a little town in Europe, there was a man who was in charge of taking care of any time a fire broke out. And he would, as soon as the fire broke out, he would knock on the door, and people would come, and they would all help. They would set up the human chain to the river, and he would put the fire out. He went to visit his brother in the town next door, and he couldn't believe what they had. They had a bell. And they would ring this bell when the fire broke out. They would ring the bell, the fire would break out, and immediately, it was so quick, everyone could hear the bell all around town, and immediately they came and they put out the fire. They set this human chain, and it was amazing. So he went back to his town, and he told them, listen, next time a fire breaks out, I have a great idea. He said, what's the great idea? You'll see. Bought himself a big bell, and he rang the bell next time the fire broke out. No one came. No one knew what the sound of the bell meant. And kept on ringing the bell again, but no one knew what this meant. Did it 3 times, just like they did it in the town over, but no one came to help. And finally, when the homes started burning one after another, they quickly tried to put out the fire, and sadly, a terrible fire broke out, and the city was destroyed. And he couldn't understand why when he rang the bell, no one came. So he went back to the town with his brother, and he said, I thought that when you ring the bell 3 times, people come to put out the fire. And he said, no, you have to know what the sound means. When you ring it 3 times, everyone knew. For years, everyone knew exactly that when you ring the bell 3 times, it means that you need to get out of bed and set up a meeting. But no one knew what the meaning of the bell was in the town was. And the fact that 250 years almost later, celebrating remembering the meaning of the bell. This bell doesn't look like we're using it anymore. We're wondering that in Philadelphia, but we're focusing on the meaning. What is the meaning of the bell? The meaning of the bell is what it says on the bell. Proclaiming liberty throughout all the land and all its inhabitants. Today, we need to remember that more than ever. Today, we need to remind ourselves, what does this mean? When the bell rings, this is a free country, and it's a freedom of religion, but not a freedom from religion. And sadly, many have taken that freedom and they free themselves from religion. And we remind ourselves again what it says on that bell, and the meaning of it. So hopefully we'll take this story with us and say a prayer that all around us should be free. And when we say free, we mean freedom to practice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian. this time, I'd like to recognize Haley Vaughn, Beverly Deutschman, and Haley just walked in, to lead us in the pledge. They are from the Daughters of the American Revolution and Colonial Reenactors. And please remain standing as we sing together after that the national anthem.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As you remain standing, we were supposed to have a soloist. She's okay, but unfortunately on her way here this morning, she was in an automobile accident and unable to make it. So with that, oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets everywhere, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, sing us that star-spangled banner yet wave, o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. Thank you. You may be seated, and thank you to the Daughters of the American Revolution. At this time, I'd like to recognize both of my colleagues for a few comments, and we'll begin with Commissioner Michael Rivera.
Thank you, Commissioner Linebaugh. Welcome and thank you for joining us today in this celebration. It's an honor to be here, and it's also an honor to have such a great piece of history here at the Berks County Services Center. And I do want to thank the Berks History Center for loaning us to have here in the Services Center. One of the areas that sticks out for me in particular of the Declaration of Independence is where it says, when it refers to everyone, endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable, which means impossible to take away or give up, inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Thomas Jefferson described the term liberty in the Declaration of Independence as unobstructed action according to our will within limits drawn around us by the equal rights of others. Again, unobstructed action according to our will within limits drawn around us by the equal rights of others. Colonists first came to America for more freedom. They came to America because they wanted political liberty. They wanted religious liberty and economic opportunity, among others. And people gave up their lives for this. At times I ponder if in today's divided society we're able to enjoy these same liberties. The liberties to have our personal, economic, familial, political, religious, and societal beliefs unobstructed without them being infringed upon, yet at the same time within the limits drawn around us by the equal rights of others. That liberty is for everyone, even for those we disagree with, those who think differently than we do, those who act differently than we do, those who speak differently than we do, and those who have different political points of view than we do. We don't necessarily need to agree with them, We don't even have to like them. But we need to understand that everyone enjoys the same unalienable liberties we do to make our choices and believe the way that we believe. The Declaration of Independence was written, signed, and fought for all. 248 years ago, the Declaration was read in both English and German, and it will be read in German shortly as well, because there is a large German-speaking population here. Today, we have a very large Spanish-speaking population, so I want to take the opportunity to read part of the Declaration in Spanish. And it says, La Declaración Unánime de los 13 Estados Unidos de América, cuando en el curso de los acontecimientos humanos se hace necesario para un pueblo disolver los vínculos políticos que lo han ligado a otro y tomar entre las naciones de la tierra el puesto separado e igual a que las leyes de la naturaleza y el Dios de esa naturaleza le dan derecho. Un justo respeto al juicio de la humanidad exige que declare las causas que lo impulsan a la separación. Sostenemos como evidentes estas verdades, que todos los hombres son creados iguales, que son dotados por su Creador de ciertos derechos inalienables, que entre ellos están la vida, la libertad y la búsqueda de la felicidad, que para garantizar estos derechos se instituyen entre los hombres los gobiernos que derivan sus poderes legítimos del consentimiento de los gobernados, que cuando quiera que una forma de gobierno se haga destructora de estos principios, el pueblo tiene el derecho a reformarla o abolirla e instruir un nuevo gobierno que se funde en dichos principios, que organizar sus poderes en la forma que a su juicio ofrecerá las mayores probabilidades de alcanzar su seguridad y felicidad. La prudencia, claro está, aconsejará que no se cambie por motivos leves y transitorios gobiernos de antiguos establecimientos. Y en efecto, toda la experiencia ha demostrado que la humanidad está más dispuesta a padecer mientras los males sean tolerables, que hacerse justicia aboliendo las formas que acostumbrada. Pero cuando una larga serie de abusos y usurpaciones dirigida invariablemente al mismo objetivo, demuestra el designio de someter al pueblo a un despotismo absoluto, en su derecho es su deber derrocar ese gobierno y establecer nuevos resguardos para su futura seguridad. Tal ha sido el paciente sufrimiento de estas colonias, que es ahora la necesidad que las obliga a reformar su anterior sistema de gobierno. La historia del actual rey de la Gran Bretaña es una historia de repetidos agravios y usurpaciones, encaminados todos directamente hacia el establecimiento de una tiranía absoluta sobre estos estados. Para probar esto, sometemos los hechos al juicio de un mundo imparcial. And that's just the first part of the Declaration of Independence, but I felt it important because of the changes that we have had today, that we have also part of it being read in Spanish. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Anyone that would like a copy of the Declaration in Spanish, we have it in both languages here. This time I'll recognize another colleague, Commissioner Dante Santoni.
Thank you. Good morning. JD, did you get that translated into Italian? And maybe I can Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioner Weinbach, for allowing me to make some brief remarks. I'm Commissioner Dante Santoni, fairly newly elected now. I've been here for 6 months. And, it's been a great honor to be a commissioner here in Berks County. There are many things that differentiate us in our communities, with different backgrounds, different nationalities, different religions, different traditions, and that's a good thing. We need to embrace them. It's what makes us a great country, the greatest country on the face of the earth, the melting pot of the world, if you will. So as we embrace those, we also need to recognize that there's a lot more that we share, a lot more that brings us together, that binds us together, the love of our families, the love of our communities, and the fact that we're all proud Americans. We live in the greatest country on the face of the earth. Two great symbols that we're talking about today. You're going to hear a lot more about the history of the Liberty Bell and the Declaration of Independence from our future speakers that are following me. But two of those great symbols of independence we're honoring today and remembering today. Tradition tells us that a chime rang out from the Tower of Independence Hall on July 8, 1776, changed the world, summoning the citizens of Philadelphia to hear the first public reading of the Declaration of Independence. Words in that document talking about liberty, freedom, equality, issues that were important to a country that was just getting started, but quite frankly, just as important today, 248 years later, to all of us who live here today. So as we stand here today, let us reflect on the sacrifices made by all those who came before us to secure our freedoms. The Liberty Bell and Declaration of Independence remind us of our endearing commitment to uphold the values and ensure that liberty and justice prepare for all. And to conclude, I just want to let us remember the Liberty Bell and Declaration of Independence not just as historic artifacts, but as living symbols of our nation's enduring spirit and commitment to freedom. Thank you for being here and for honoring these powerful symbols of independence. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men, all people are created equal, and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among people. Very briefly, number one, these self-evident facts are for all people. Everyone. If you're a human being, you're in the right group. We need to change the narrative in this country, right, left, or middle. We need to stop looking at each other as anything other than human beings. We spend so much time categorizing this group or that group. For good reasons or bad reasons, it doesn't matter. What this document said is all people are created equal. Let us embrace that. The biggest reason I embraced the opportunity to become involved with America 250 is because of how important I believe the document known as the Declaration is, and how critical it is for our generation to embrace its ideals. It's for all people. The second thing is, and often lost, what's the core role of government? To secure these liberties. Not to limit them, not to say who can or who can't, not to come out and say, okay, we have a new definition of what the liberties are. The people that signed the Declaration of Independence signed their lives away. They pledged their fortunes, their lives, and their sacred honors for a very simple idea that all people are created equal, and that it was the role of government not to take those rights, not to limit those rights, but to secure those rights. That's why we're here today. And I want to thank you for being here and joining with us in the celebration of this document that, albeit not perfect, is the document we still point back to find out where we need to go as a country. Just as Lincoln pointed back to the Declaration as he stood on the battlefield in Gettysburg and consecrated that field, he started his speech by saying, 407 years ago, go back from 1863, he was calling back to the Declaration of Independence and the idea that all people are created equal and that we need to constantly have that in front of us. I'd like to recognize some folks here. First of all, I want to start by recognizing members of the America 250 Berks Committee. Those that are here, please raise your hand. There are several. This event This is the third one we've done, is put on by the members of our Berks, what's America 250 PA Berks Committee. We really appreciate your work. I'd also like to recognize a number of elected officials that are with us. I'm going to start with Senator Chris Gebhardt. He represents parts of Berks County, Lebanon County. Thank you for being here, Senator. We also have a number of row officers. I'm not sure why you're hiding, but we'll start with Beth Jones, our clerk of courts. Behind the counter, Jonathan Del Palo, our presiding. Ms. Garthworth, our treasurer. Joe Rutherford, our county controller. We also have Donna Reed. Donna Reed is president of city council. We have Mandy Miller, our chief deputy sheriff. Mandy, thank you for being here. And we have, I believe, several representatives from Senator Schwenk's office. If you would raise your hand. Thank you very much. I think I got all of our elected officials. And with that, I want to recognize Andre Castillo. Andre is the engagement coordinator for America 250 PA. Andre, come and share your thoughts with us.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. Good afternoon, everyone. As Commissioner stated, my name is Andre, and I am from America 250 PA. I want to say I'm honored to be here today for this celebration, and I want to thank America 250 PA Berks County for the invitation. America 250 PA is the Pennsylvania Commission for the United States Semi-Quincentennial, which was established by the legislature and the governor in 2018 with the mission to plan, encourage, develop, and coordinate the commemoration of the 250th anniversary of America in 2026. As we approach this significant milestone, America 250 PA aims to highlight all Pennsylvanians' integral role in the founding of the country and the profound impact of the people on our nation and our Commonwealth. It is an opportunity to engage all citizens of the Commonwealth from all 67 counties. America 250 PA seeks to bring Pennsylvania's rich history to the forefront of all conversations, allowing Pennsylvanians to gain deeper understanding of the origins and multiple perspectives of our amazing Commonwealth. By reflecting on our past, we hope to inspire future leaders who will carry forward the legacy of innovation, resilience, and leadership that defines our state. America 250 PA envisions the commemoration as an opportunity to engage all Pennsylvanians, ensuring that the celebration is inclusive and representative of our diverse population. We are striving to make 2026 truly epic as we educate, preserve, innovate, and celebrate Pennsylvania's rich history, culture, and our future. Together, let us all make the 250th anniversary a commemoration that is inclusive, impactful, and truly epic. Thank you so much.
At this time, you get to hear the story of the bell. I will tell you one thing that Rick may not be aware of, but I didn't know such a bell existed until a little over 3 years ago. And I was doing a tour, Anne Marie, I believe you were with me, of the Berks History Center, and I saw the bell. And I said, what is this? And they told me about it, and I came back to my colleagues at the time and said, we need to work with the History Center and get this bell on display. Now you're going to hear how we still have the bell from 248 years ago. Rick Politica is a volunteer at the Berks History Center. We're glad to have him to tell us the story of Berks County's own Liberty Bell.
Thank you, Commissioner. 248 years ago, breaking news. America has declared independence. The colonies are independent of England. That actually came out in July 4th, not July 8th. It took 4 days to get here because those carriers of the message had to stop at every community on the way before they got to Reading. So Reading was not exactly the only place they went. They went to every town in the area to proclaim that news. So that is the whole idea. So the breaking news today comes on your cell phone. I mean, you get it right away from your whatever news source you use. But back then it was metal ponies or horses, and they ran to every town and they delivered that message. That message was delivered on July 8, 1776, to Henry Vanderslice, who was the sheriff of Reading, Berks County at that time. And from the courthouse is where the bell resided, in the center of Penn Square, right in the middle of Penn Square is where it was. The bell was rung and the proclamation was read at that time. The bell was cast actually in Bridgewater, England, so we used something that the English gave us against them. If you think about it, so you go backward, careful what you wish for, you might get it, So July 8th was when that was taking place here in Reading. The courthouse stood in the center of town. A lot of people don't realize it, but that the building that's right to the northeast corner of the square was actually attached to it, because that was the State House building. And in the basement there are still jail cells that held prisoners there to have their hearings heard at the courthouse. And there was a passageway underneath the square that went to the courthouse for that purpose. So the bell lasted in downtown Reading until 1841, when, as the city, it was still not a city yet, it was still a town, it did not become a city until the end of that decade. But the town of Reading was in need of more courtroom space because the town was growing. And so then the second courthouse was built on North 6th Street, and the bell was retired. And then the bell was actually replaced as far as a symbol of liberty in our area by the Goddess of Liberty. The one that's in the lobby of the courthouse here, that's the second Goddess of Liberty. The one that's in the Berks History Center is the first Goddess of Liberty. So that stood at the top of the courthouse until that courthouse was retired, until the current 1931 version was built. But the bell left Reading at that point. It wound up going down to St. John's Union Church in Boyertown, where it was used for about 30 years. The thing that was interesting about it was there was a little bit of a problem with the bell, and this goes to what the rabbi was saying before, was the bell sounded too much like the general fire alarm, so they got confused about it. So, and interesting about that also, because as time went on, things were changed to help develop the bell system that you didn't have to worry about that kind of problem. But in 1870, 1872, yeah, that was a problem at that point in time, because when we called for a fire, we were just bringing out for a general proclamation or something. So the bell got retired, and it kind of got a little bit lost in space down there in Boyertown. It wasn't until 1920 when Dr. Robert Moody was made aware of the bell that's still in Boyertown, and he wound up bringing the bell. He was the one that was instrumental in getting the bell into the hands of the Berks History Center by 1923. It took about a couple of years for that to happen. He was not actually in the area. He was actually managing hotels in the Atlantic City area, but he was still involved, and he thought that there was only one place that needed to be, and that was at the Historical Society of Berks County, now known as the Berks History Center. So with that being said, so since 1923, when our headquarters were still on North 4th Street before they moved up to Center Avenue at the end of the decade, in 1923 is when we took possession of the bell. So with that being said, the story is pretty interesting because, just imagine to have that bell rung. And the interesting part about the Boyertown scenario, why they retired the bell, by the time you got 40 years into it, 50 years into it later, the system is how to acknowledge either a fire going on or a general alarm of some sort. They made that much more detailed and intricate the way that the sounding of the bells were, so people knew what was going on. Henceforth, all the bells in Reading were all part of the general fire alarm system also at that time. So that was, in World War I, they all rang to bring in the alarm system at 3 o'clock in the morning. So, but we're still talking about our bell here. It's been in our lobby, it's been in our basement. when the basement, the building was first built. We have pictures of it when it was actually displayed in the basement, in one of the galleries down in the basement. But now it's here at the courthouse. It's on loan. And as a 42-year-old member of the Berks History Center, Historical Society of Berks County, I say thank you very much. And I turn it over to you.
And this is a great partnership, as it should be. The Berks History Center, Berks County Government, Berks History Center, they are the protectors of our history. Before I have an individual come read the Declaration of Independence, I want to recognize that on July 8, 1776, it was read by then Sheriff Henry Vanderslice. We have two of Henry Vanderslice's descendants with us this morning. And I'm going to ask them to stand. Jennifer Loveland. Jennifer is sixth generation descendant, and her daughter, is it Alicia? Di Lorenzo, or Di Lorenza. She is seventh generation. I didn't even know we had any of the Vanderslice family still in the area. That's another story we want to tell in a future program. But Henry Vanderslice's story with the American War for Independence did not end with the reading of the Declaration, and we'll save that story. Jennifer and Alicia, thank you very much for being here. I'm going to make a suggestion, Mandy. Get your picture taken with them. Sheriff, the Chief Deputy Sheriff today, and descendants of Sheriff Vanderslice. We're blessed this morning to have Jay Ostrich, United States Air Force, and our director of the Chief Master Sergeant Richard Etchberger Veterans Center for Berks County, here to read the Declaration of Independence. One of the reasons we read this is because most people have no idea how long the Declaration of Independence is, including people that I've asked to read it. You're the third individual, and I'm not surprised, because years ago when I first read it, I said, whoa, I didn't learn this in school. I just learned largely what's the preamble to it. Listen carefully, because there are two core messages here. One you've heard a lot of us talk about, but you hear very little in the understanding of what the colonists tried to do to make things right. Signing the Declaration of Independence was not a knee-jerk reaction. It was not, you know what, we can do better on our own. Let's get rid of these English. Listen, as Jay comes and reads the Declaration of Independence.
Hear ye, hear ye. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect for the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to this separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, government are instituted among men, deriving their powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute a new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall be most likely to affect their safety and happiness. prudence indeed will dictate that government's long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient suffering of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. He has refused to assent to laws the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance, unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained. And when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people, unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of the people. He has refused for a long time after such dissolutions to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers incapable of annihilation have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions from within. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states for the purpose of obstructing the laws of naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migration hither, and raising the conditions of the new appropriations of lands. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and for the amount and payment of their sacrifices. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of their legislatures. He has effected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving him assent to their acts of pretended legislation, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by mock trial from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us, in many cases, of the benefits of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses, for abolishing the free system of English laws in the neighboring province, establishing therein arbitrary government, and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and a fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule to these colonies, for taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of government, for suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. He has abdicated government here by declaring out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coast, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete his works of death, desolation, and tyranny, already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages, and totally unworthy of the head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens, taking captive on the high seas to bear arms against our country, to become executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by his hands. He has excited domestic insurrections among us. He has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers, the merciless Indian savages, whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of free people. Nor have we been wanting in attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our immigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interpret our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and consanguinity. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation, and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace friends. We therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress, assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by the authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, in ab right, ought to be free and united states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved. And that as free and independent states, they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all the other acts and things which independent states may have the right to do. And for the support of this declaration, and with firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our civil honor.
Can you imagine for a moment the people of Reading and Berks County hearing those words for the first time, knowing that this is a result of years of back and forth, to realize two big things. One, that the decision has been made. And two, that we face a future of uncertainty. We face a future of war and conflict. But we do so because we believe it is right. That's what happened here 248 years ago. And I hope that you experience the small part of it. To conclude our presentation, I've asked Laurel Miller, who is chair of our America 250 PA Berks History Committee, to come and share a little bit about the German reading, and then she will be reading that most famous portion in German. Laurel Miller.
Yes, as the commissioners, Commissioner O'Connor, Commissioner Lineback have said, the last 250 years, Berks County has been multicultural, and we were founded in diversity. So, and this American 250, one of the goals is to celebrate that multicultural heritage. The town of Reading was founded by British, so English. Thomas and Edward Penn, sons of William Penn, helped to organize the government. A lot of the first officials and judges were English. However, it was basically settled and built up by Germans. William Penn had sent emissaries to Germany, starting in the late 1600s, early 1700s, to invite Germans to come here. The Germans had a reputation for being good farmers, good craftsmen, honest and hardworking. So he wanted Germans to come and love his colony. And he sent emissaries to put up broadsides. So lots of Germans came between 1727, when ships was starting to be packed, and 1776. There were upwards of 30,000 adult males who came from Germany, plus the women and children. So by 1776, the population of Berks County was at least 2/3 German. So the declaration was read in English. It's almost certain that it was also read in German. A lot of the pastors here, the pastors of the German churches, would be called into the courthouse to translate documents, and we have some of those translations signed by the pastors. And also, you may not know that the Declaration of Independence, the writers brought copies up to read, as has been explained in different places. However, for having it appear in print, either in a newspaper or broadside, there was a German preacher in Philadelphia who had it translated and printed a broadside in German before it appeared to the public in English. And there's actually 2 existing copies of that, one in the Museum in Berlin and one in Gettysburg. So anyway, we are, it's virtually certain that it would have been read in German here in Reading. So I would just like to read a small part, the part that says, "Behold, these truths are self-evident. Wir hatten diese Wahrheiten für erstmal, dass alle Menschen geschaffen wurden, dass sie in ihren Schöpfer mit gewissen unveräußerlichen Kräften überprüfen, worin sind Leben, Freiheit und das Streben nach Glückseligkeit. Dass durch das Sichern dieser Kräfte gebringen unter den Menschen eingeführt worden sind, welche ihre Kräfte Gewalt von der Einwilligung der Regierten benötigt. Dass sobald einige Regierungsform diesen Endzwecken verderbt wird, es das Recht des Volkes ist, sie zu verändern und abzuschaffen und eine neue Regierung einzusetzen, die auf solche Grundsätze begründet, in deren Macht und Gewalt solche Gestalt gebildet wird, was ihnen zur Erhaltung ihrer Sicherheit und Glückseligkeit am schickendsten zu sein wird.
Thank you very much, Laurel. Really appreciate you and your leadership with the History Committee. Again, let me see all the hands of our Berks, America 250 Berks PA Committee. Raise your hands. These are the folks that are not just doing this. We have a website. Heather Adams from BCTV leads our website committee, and I think we have a new person on board that's going to help us update the website, Kim Worley. But our website is America250PABerks.com. So feel free to check that out. We also have America250PA.org. Great resource. If you want to contact Andre, his picture, I think your email and everything is right there under staff. Cassandra Coleman is the executive director of America 250. And then also BerksHistory.org, our Berks History Center. If you're looking for history on the Declaration of Independence and on Berks County, those are all 3 very, very good resources. thank you very much for joining us. I do want to acknowledge our IS department, standing there faithfully, broadcasting on Facebook Live. I understand BCTV has been picking up the Facebook Live feed and also broadcasting it. So if you go back home and you want to look at some part of the program, you can go to our Facebook page. We also thank the Red Eagle for being here. We had Channel 69 News earlier, and we had Channel 10 out of Philadelphia also covering. And gentleman over here, TLC for Reading. He did a great job actually promoting this event. And I highlight the media because we do appreciate the media and anybody that knows anything about history, especially American history. The media played a pretty incredible part. Thank you very much. God bless you. God bless America.